It's now my pleasure to share with you a conversation we recorded yesterday with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell and JPMorgan Chase's Courtney Hodapp. Congresswoman Debbie Dingell represents the 12th Congressional District of Michigan, which includes Dearborn and Ann Arbor, go blue. Before being elected to Congress, she also chaired the Wayne State University Board of Governors. For more than 30 years, Debbie has served as president of the General Motors Foundation and was a senior executive responsible for public affairs. But that doesn't tell the full story. She's been a leader, often behind the scenes, on a wide range of issues, from housing and community development to the health, welfare, and civil rights of women and children. She's a member of the House Leadership Team, as well as the Progressive Caucus and the Problem Solvers Caucus. Anyone who has watched Speaker Nancy Pelosi walking out of the White House has seen Congresswoman Dingell just over her shoulder, which is a surprise to no one who knows her. Collaboration is her brand. Courtney Hodapp is the head of National Stakeholder and Policy Engagement for JPMorgan Chase & Company. Courtney and her team are responsible for building lasting relationships with stakeholders who believe we need to break down structural barriers to opportunity, including civil rights and consumer groups, with a particular focus on informing JPMorgan Chase's approach to consumer policy, products, and services. So when we talk about the power of collaboration, there really isn't anyone better to hear from than Courtney Hodapp and Debbie Dingell. So let's do that.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you so much, Congresswoman Dingell, for being here today and taking part in this conversation. If I can, just one personal note, my sister-in-law and her family live in Flat Rock, so they are proud constituents of yours. And it's really just wonderful to be speaking to you directly. And I know folks listening are eager to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Courtney. It's really great to be with you. And I think the world of David and all the work that everybody's doing. And Flat Rock's just come through a really hard time. I kind of lived there for a month. So I hope your family's doing okay too.
They are. She's an engineer at GM, so she's doing okay. Thank you. So as David mentioned, you're a member of the Progressive Caucus and the Problem Solvers Caucus. And while you may not be the only one to have membership in both of those groups, you are unique in today's world as promoting collaboration and working to heal the partisan divide. Can you tell us a little bit about where that comes from and what you think we need to move beyond this current moment of partisanship?
So I don't know where it comes from. I suspect it goes way back to the nuns somehow, teaching me that I'm part of a community, the importance of listening to each other, the importance of learning from each other, the importance of different perspectives. First of all, I hate labels. I really want to say that. I think we are becoming more of a label society than we've ever been. I'm an American, and that's the label I wear proudly. I do like being a member of the Problem Solvers because I have a lot of friends across the aisle. I don't think that any of us has all the answers. I think each of us represents a different district. There are 435 of us in the House. And we have different constituents, our districts reflect the diversity of this country. We've had different life experiences. We bring different perspectives, but that's what representative government is, different perspectives. So when we can get in the room, learn from each other, listen to each other. My husband used to say, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen more and talk less. We can learn from each other and reach that common ground. And I came up of a time that compromise isn't a dirty word. Finding that common ground and getting the best solution is what we should be working for.
I think that's something we should all aspire to. And it's certainly something that I hope to bring in the work that I do across bridging the bank and our consumer advocate and civil rights partner. So thank you for sharing that. The mention of Speaker Pelosi from David also brings up, of course, the infrastructure bill that recently passed and that the president signed into law. You were helpful, to say the least, in moving that over the finish line. What are the persuasive arguments that you did use, that you are using to move your colleagues? I think when a lot of people think about Washington, they think of dug in heels and they don't imagine that people are persuadable. What are the sort of things that you're saying to help change hearts and minds?
Well, first of all, for the last 25, 30, 40 years, presidents have been trying to invest in our infrastructure, Republicans and Democrats, and we haven't been able to find a common ground to get it done. Our infrastructure, our roads and bridges are the equivalent of any third world country in the world. That is not something that we should be proud of. The governor of my state campaigned on fix the damn roads, and we still need to invest. So we need to invest in our roads, in our bridges. We've got too many that are falling down. We need to, for a variety of reasons, support our economy and our logistics. But there are a number of other things that are in this bill that are really critical. I come from the state of Michigan, as we've been talking about. Flint has taught us all about what happens with lead in pipes and the danger of children drinking water that has lead in it. Now we have Benton Harbor. We have cities and towns across the country that have pipes that still have lead in them. 50% of the children whose blood has been tested in this country have lead in their blood. And we know the detrimental health effects on a young child who's got lead in their blood. So we need to get the lead out of every pipe in this country. The pandemic shined a light on the disparity for high-speed internet as children were forced to, children and adults, but just the educational experience that urban areas and rural areas didn't have access to high-speed internet. That's critical to keep ourselves competitive and there's so much more in this bill, from, making sure that people's water isn't turned off, to building resiliency in our supply chain, to building out mass transit. There are so many things in the infrastructure bill that this country needed. All you had to do was to talk about the difference it would make, and it sold itself.
That's great. As the mother of two very young children, I particularly appreciate thinking about how we protect our kids, and hate to think that any family would have to cope with something like that. So let's talk about housing. We're here with housers who are thinking about Build Back Better. They're thinking about their broader work. We talked about Flat Rock in your district. You have this really unique, maybe it's not so unique, but you have a lot of different housing challenges in your district. It's sort of a microcosm of America. You have a place like Ann Arbor, a college town that's facing affordability issues. You have other communities, maybe a little bit like Flat Rock, that are experiencing appraisal gap issues. How are you thinking about how you tackle those complexities within one district? And then maybe more broadly talk about some of the pieces of Build Back Better that you think will address those larger housing challenges.
So my district is a microcosm of the country. So you do have Ann Arbor that has a real lack of affordable housing. And I've actually been looking at real estate. I'm probably going to have to move, which is traumatic for me. But the cost of real estate in Ann Arbor is twice what it is in any other place around my district. Many of the communities, affordable housing continues to be an issue, but everybody wants to have a safe, affordable home to live in for their own dignity, security, and respect. So as we tackle, there are a lot of people that need to be able to afford their heat, to be able to afford their utilities. They're renters that are trying to make sure that they're landlords who have bought a second home or renting out basements that is income from themselves, but the pandemic has caused huge issues, and we don't want people to be evicted. The housing issues that that people being able to afford to buy a home, is it still going to be for many, the home is their retirement security. And the housing market's going crazy right now. Homes don't stay in the market. The mortgage rates are very low right now, with the lowest I've seen in my life. Now, I'm not old, but I'm seasoned. And that's incredible too. But there's so many different issues as we talk about housing across the district. And what I want to work on and what we're trying to do in the Build Back Better is to ensure that every American's got access to safe, affordable housing. And then if you are in a home, that you've got the money to retrofit it for utility reasons, as we worry about global climate, that you can afford your heating bills, your utility bills, that you not have your water shut off. A whole lot of different issues that not everybody associates with housing, but are housing issues. Access to schools, access to doctors, many things that people don't automatically think about.
Yeah. And of course, your district includes some southern parts of Detroit, maybe not the city proper, but you're right there, and you have been deeply active over the years in the recovery of Detroit. You know that JPMorgan Chase has taken a real special interest in working closely with the local community and other partners in that recovery. How do you think about the long-term recovery of the city? When you reflect on past recoveries for Detroit, they haven't always meant that the city is on the upswing forever. You've seen some back cycling in other recessions. While the city experienced some challenges during the pandemic, it does seem like this is a lasting recovery. Do you think that's true? And what do you think was different this time?
So when people ask me where I'm from, I still say Detroit. I was born in Detroit. I worked in General Motors in Detroit for more than 30 years. And I've always lived around Detroit. So Detroit's been very much part of my life. And I was president of the GM Foundation. I did work with Dave on housing issues for a long time. And people would talk, but they wouldn't walk. People didn't walk the talk for a long time. And, I remember going to Washington when President Obama was in office and talking about Detroit recovery plans and being on the plane with a lot of the business leaders of Detroit and talking to them then about, hey, recovery includes the neighborhoods, and you need to be talking about the neighborhoods. You need to not just be CEOs going to the White House to talk about your plans, but what's it going to take to make Detroit strong? And that Dan Gilbert took on the neighborhoods after that first flight, actually. So downtown itself is coming back. You're seeing restaurants and businesses, and it's a sustainable city. GM's commitment to the waterfront, developing the waterfront parks and recreational areas, but they're also in the communities. So I think that businesses coming and staying, you see young people living downtown. Wayne State is growing. So you've got a university, people are investing in the school system, which matters. I mean, it's not solved. We've still got to make sure that everybody's got access to a good education. But I think a lot of people want to see Detroit succeed. And by the way, there's a mutual dependency of, if Detroit doesn't do well, the region's not going to do well. But Detroit needs the region to do well too. So I'm one of those people that keeps talking about the need for regional cooperation. We have a mutual dependency upon each other, and we've got to help each other continue to grow and do well.
That's a really cool story, and I think points to how important it is for business leaders overall, wherever they are, to be thinking about the full spectrum of their community. It's not just about shareholders, it's not just about investors and clients, but their employees and the broader community too. Well, this has been really lovely, Representative Dingell. Thank you for joining us. I want to make sure to give you the last word if there's anything else you want to share with the housers that are here today before we turn it back over to David.
Well, it's just great to be with all of you. And look, I think that housing is one of the most important things that we need to talk about in this country, because too many people can't afford to buy a home, can't afford to live in a safe neighborhood. And we want to make sure that everybody's got access to that. And at the same time, that people who do buy a home have resources to winterize and summerize and all those things. And What I want is everybody in America to feel like they can afford to live in a safe neighborhood with good neighbors and be part of a community.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your leadership and your participation in the session today. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.